Okay, sorry about that. So Olatunji Emmanuel is a talent acquisition and HR professional specializing in recruitment strategy, candidate evaluation systems, and structured hiring operations. He has supported startups and scaling teams in building recruitment pipelines and assessing talent against competitive global standards. With hands-on experience reviewing thousands of applications, he brings a pattern-based perspective on what recruiters consistently shortlist and what gets filtered out in international hiring processes. His work focuses on transitioning professionals from qualified to hired for global opportunities. All right, so Olatunji Emmanuel is a recruitment and talent acquisition specialist. Okay, so Emmanuel, please you can share your screen and we can get the session rolling. Okay. Yes,
All
please let's
right.
put in our emojis to just appreciate them.
Okay. Thank you very much, Favor. My screen should be coming up right about now. Okay. Good evening once again, everyone. I hope we're all doing great. I'm, I'm hoping that this session can be interactive at some point. So you'd kindly indulge me if at some point I'll be asking some questions and the expected feedback from us. So just like Favor said, or first of all, I'd like to say thank you to the Innova Lab team for this invitation. And yeah, I do not take it for granted. And it's really great to be here to speak to each and every one of us, sharing a thing or two about what I know. And just like you said, for context, I work in human resource and recruitment. And over the years, I've been involved in hiring processes across multiple international teams. I've worked with organizations across the UK, the US, Canada, and maybe here and there supported some other organizations like the Philippines and the likes, but stronger focus around Canada and the US currently. So for tonight's session, the topic we're looking at is landing foreign remote tech roles, what recruiters want, and how you can prepare, right? I've given this a subtopic to say pattern-based breakdown for Nigerian tech professionals. Maybe I should have taken out the Nigerian because I mean, we might have others who are not Nigerian on the call as well. So this content is also functional for each and every one. It's not limited to Nigerians alone. So we can also feel free to share this with others who might not be on the call, but are interested in, learning a thing or two from this session as well. So let's dive in. So first of all, I would say that global remote work is, for a fact, currently changing the professional landscape, right? Hiring, recruitment is not the way it used to be anymore. I mean, today, someone from Lagos can be contributing to a company in San Francisco, in Toronto, anywhere across the universe, across the world, without relocating, right? And I would use myself as an example. I've practically been on remote roles for the better part of the last 4 years now. Yeah. And I understand what remote work means in that regard, and some of the demands around working remotely. But then one thing that many people underestimate, right, is when companies decide or desire to recruit remotely, certain things happen, certain realities, begin to shape in. And one thing is that they are choosing to recruit from across the world, one, and that means that opportunities have been expanded. Now, when I say opportunities have expanded, I mean both for the organizations themselves and for potential hires, right, for such organizations. But while this is happening, one thing that we must also keep at the back of our mind is that as these opportunities are expanding, so is the competition, right? So if take for instance, if an organization in UK were to hire locally, um, say they have a total of about 50 applications at most from their local environment. Now, if such organization decides to hire globally and you are applying as a Nigerian, best believe that you are one out of over 1,000. You're one out of over 1,000. Now, the question we're asking is, how do we position ourselves to be, the best pick? How do we um, how do we set ourselves apart from the crowd? How do we ensure that we are part of the top percentage of candidates that are looked at when recruitment is going on? And in order to do this, I do not just want to give general career advice this evening. I want to share with us how hiring decisions happen from the recruiter side of things, and some of the patterns that I have seen that either make certain candidates stand out or make them completely disappear in an hiring process. Now, because many strong professionals, truth be told, are not rejected because they lack skill. I think Favor said something similar to that when she was starting the session. Many strong professionals are not rejected because they lack skill. What what makes them get rejected is that their signal is unclear. Now, I think this evening, part of what we'll be doing is tuning our antennas right, so that our signals become clearer, right? Um, so let's start from the employer side of things. Why do companies hire globally in the first place, right? Companies do not hire globally because remote work is just the new trending thing. Companies hire globally for basically leverage. And what do I mean by leverage? It's three major things. One is, a broader access to talents, a broader access to top skilled candidates. That's one. Another reason why companies hire globally is cost efficiency, right? Cost efficiency. We'll touch on this much further down the line. And the third reason why organizations hire globally, especially tech companies, is time zone coverage, right? Take for instance, um, a company like Microsoft. Let's use Microsoft for example. Hires across various time zones, hires across various countries, and part of the reasons they do that is to ensure that work continues 24/7. Work continues 24 hours a day. So while someone in the US does their 9 to 5, maybe an engineer, a developer does a standard 9 to 5 in the US, and some work still needs to get done. There is someone else in another time zone that they are collaborating with that is also working to ensure that things are also getting done on their side of the business, right? Um, so these are three major reasons why companies hire globally, right? And sometimes it's not tied to how good you are, right? It's just what it is, right? What the job economy is requesting or demanding per time. Now, the thing that comes with this leverage is one word: risk. One word: risk. And when employers from across the world are hiring, can you still see my screen? Okay, I noticed it went off for a moment. Okay, so when employers are hiring from across the world, there are questions that they start asking, and this is tied to the risk I just talked about. And some of these questions are: Can I trust this person? Can I trust them to operate functionally? Can I trust them to operate independently? Can I trust them to deliver consistently? Right? Because believe you me, in fact, remote work even within Nigeria, let's not even go global now, can be a hellhole when some of these things are not in place. Now, I'm talking about when employees are not able to deliver, when employees are not dependable, when employees are they lack ownership, right? These are some of the things that make remote work very difficult and make it a very difficult decisions for most organizations to make. But the truth is, the decisions are already being made, and even these organizations are putting in steps to ensure that, you know what, we're hiring the best, they're giving us the results that we need, and everything is going as it should be going. Now, from a recruiter lens, um, these are some of the risks that employers look at. I've mentioned one of them before, and I said something about time zone. Now, look at these five things I listed here. One says communication risk, right? That's clarity and consistency in remote interactions. Now, right from this very moment in this presentation, we're already looking at some of the things that you and I, everyone on this call, needs to start checkmating and ensuring that we are doing our best to put in place or be best positioned for. Now, I've mentioned communication with clarity and consistency in remote interactions. There are certain people that want to work remotely, but are not able to keep consistent and clear communications. Now, this is a very big red flag and a very big risk that most organizations that are hiring remotely have to, face. And believe you me, when there are risks like this, when there are risks like this, every recruiter has a huge task on their neck, which is to mitigate this risk as best as possible. So if you are not on the good side of this risk, if you're not on the uh, yes, this candidate can help us mitigate this risk, or this candidate is one that we are able to take a shot on. This candidate is one that we are able to, place a bet on. Then you already have a problem with global remote work, right? Another thing is time zone risk. Will the geographical gap hinder team velocity or meeting sync? Now, sometimes this is not within anyone's control. Certain organizations are not just able to hire from other time zones, in this case, maybe the Nigerian time zones, because they feel that, the gap in the time zone is just too wide, right? And speaking from experience, I've worked with two US clients that they don't even have an issue with the time zone thing. They are more concerned for you, right? And they're like, it's maybe 10 a.m. over there, and maybe not 10 a.m., but basically it's around maybe say 11 p.m. here in Nigeria, and your employer is concerned that shouldn't you be sleeping right about now, right? There are certain employers that are, that much concerned. Others are just, what, just get the work done, right? I don't care what time zone you're in or, things like that. But this time zone issue is a risk, and considering having to balance other people that are working within the organization, right? Certain organizations require that everyone works in sync, while certain other organizations are okay with, asynchronous communication. That's, just communicating whenever you're on the job, whenever you're available to work, and, everyone is able to respond whenever they're also available. There is no strict, or everyone has to be available at this particular time zone. So these are some of the things or the risks that we see when it comes to global hiring. I think I've spoken about reliability risk before. Another concern is cultural alignment risk, that is fitting into the remote team's ethos and working style. By ethos, I mean, work ethics and working style. This is another concern that many global organizations have when it comes to remote hiring, being able to balance, team culture, team work style, and, understanding that everyone is coming from different backgrounds, from different cultural understanding. And believe you me, the work culture in one country would typically differ from the work culture in another country, and things like that, right? These are some of the risks that we see. Now, every hiring decision is fundamentally a risk calculation, right? And recruiters seek assurance. Recruiters seek assurance. Can this candidate mitigate or reduce all of these risks that have been identified? So you must ask yourself constantly, am I able to mitigate some of this risk? Ask yourself questions like, am I a good communicator? Right? And being a good communicator is not just about you being able to speak English or about you being able to write. It's also about knowing when and how to communicate, right? These are some of the things that we need to checkmate internally when we are positioning ourselves for global remote work. Now, moving on from this, um, one second, please. Okay. So moving on from that, like I said, there is this common assumption that many of us have, and it is, if I'm qualified, I should get hired, right? And we all need to come to the reality of the facts of something I said before. The bigger or the broader the opportunities, the bigger the competition. Now, speaking from experience, and this is just even reviewing applications within one country alone, right? I have worked on recruitment projects where internally, now this is not global hiring, right? This is internally. You're seeing nothing less than 1,700 applications for just one position. Now, imagine when such a position is open for global candidates, and imagine you're competing with 20 to 30 other countries. That's 30 multiplied by almost 2,000. So you're looking at 60,000 applications thereabouts. How do you stand out? Now, a lot of organizations these days rely on ATS platforms, AI tools, and stuff like that to even shortlist candidates. I mean, no one is going to sit and review 60,000 applications, right? So sometimes your fate is decided by ATS, AI, shortlisting, and then the recruiter just goes in and says, you know what? Okay, from this 60,000, I only have the bandwidth to interview 20, right? And then they do their scan and pick the top 20 candidates, review them. Now, one secret I would like to bring to your notice is sometimes even these ATS platforms or AI platforms are not 100% accurate. Now, this is from a recent review that I carried out myself. So there are even candidates that the ATS platform scores 198, and it's typically not even the best from the pile of application, right? So in the midst of it all, I'm saying that the competition is fierce, right? And sometimes even how skilled you are is not what gets you into the door, right? It's not what gets you into the door. Now, from the diagram you can see on screen, I mentioned when I said the competency trap. Now, why qualification alone is no longer enough in the global market? We've touched on risk mitigation. We've touched on the fact that one thing qualification would do for you is it makes you eligible. Your qualification makes you eligible, but it doesn't necessarily make you sing. It doesn't necessarily make you the top candidate for that position, because while you're competing, 1,000 other people are also carrying the same qualification you're carrying, right? But the best you can always do for yourself, like I said before, first, ensure that you're a candidate that is able to mitigate the risk that I have mentioned before. Now, this may not come in handy at the initial phase of you're submitting an application, and that is where strategic positioning comes in. Strategic positioning is what will make your application get into the room, and then your ability to mitigate certain risk is what will get you into an interview and possibly through the interview phases. Um, if we're still with me, can someone just say hello or a thumbs up? So I'm sure that we're still together. Thank you very much, Sandra. Thank you, Gloria.
Hello.
Okay, so I'll just move on from that. Now, I said something before that a lot of times recruiters get thousands of applications and they are not even able to review all of them. So the best thing you can do for yourself again is be properly positioned. Now, before the end of this session, I'll share some bonus points in certain areas just to ensure that we are well-rounded and being as practical as possible with this conversation. Now, so what is the basic, or again, what are the major differences between global hiring and local hiring, right? So when hiring locally, there is a geography thing, and you're able to hire within a geographical region. You're able to maybe even request that people work hybrid, or you're able to say that, okay, these people, they understand the style, they understand the structure, they understand how employment works in, take for instance, Nigeria, right? But with global hiring, that is quite different. There is a lot of readjustment, both culturally, mentally, as to how things work in the workplace, as to how things work in whatever country you intend getting a job in, right? That's one thing that differs. Another thing that differs for most organizations is the onboarding process, right? For a globally diverse team, onboarding is very different. Onboarding takes much more effort because a lot of training has to go into bringing this person up to speed on these are the do's, these are the don'ts. I believe some of us might have even come across certain situations where you work in a foreign organization and you use some certain phrases or some certain sentences, and the next thing you're seeing is an HR invite or an HR query. This is typically something you might not see in a Nigerian environment. Now, I don't mean to shade Nigeria, but I'm just saying that there are certain things that are culturally not accepted in certain workplaces that you need to then adjust to. These are some of the differences you see when it comes to global work. And where this is important for us is I want to believe that some of us on this call are maybe already starting a global opportunity. Maybe you're in the interview phase of one, maybe you're, just being hopeful that you're getting one. I want you to have this discussion at the back of your mind that you need to understand the culture of wherever it is you intend working, right? So that you are not doing things that limit your chances, right? You're not doing things that limit your chances. Um, some other things that we can see on the list is communication, right? The way communication works in global teams is quite different from, a local team. Local team, you're all working within the same time zone. Everyone starts at 9, everyone closes at 5. But with global teams, sometimes you're getting messages late in the night. Sometimes you have to get certain things done in a different time zone from yours. You're working when every other person is sleeping. And sometimes it can come with a shock for many of us. If you've worked a 9 to 5 in Nigeria before, and all of a sudden you have a global opportunity, and now you're working maybe 2 p.m. to, and that's even nice. You're working 4 p.m. to say 3 a.m. Right? Sometimes it can come with a shock to some of us, and it comes with a need for adjustment, a need for adjustment. So these are some of the realities that come when we're looking at global recruitment, global hiring, global remote roles, and the likes. And the last one I would not want to repeat, we've talked a lot about, fierce competitions out there, fierce competition. So I would like to move on to, what we actually look for when it comes to um, your application for a global position, right? Enough of the introductory talk. Let's go into the details of this conversation. Now, there's one thing I call the 10 to 20 second reality, right? When it comes to reviewing applications. Now, a recruiter would typically scan your CV in the first 10 to 20 seconds, and they can already pick on certain signals. Now, I'm not saying they don't, then take their time to review, but especially in a situation where a recruiter has to go through 50 CVs or 100 CVs, believe you me, the first 10 to 20 seconds is the time you have to make an impression. And that brings me to why your CV has to be the best it can be. In the next slide, we'll be talking about, some of the things that, either make you stand out or make you disappear. Now, in that 20 seconds, a recruiter is able to see, okay, is there role alignment, right? Has this person done something similar to what we're hiring for? They're able to see career progression, how consistently has this person done this, how have they moved through the phases
I think we
of
can't
their
hear you.
career. Uh, is that true,
Please
or
check
is
your
just
network. We are you are audible from my own end.
okay? Thank you, Larry, for confirming. Okay, SA, please, you may want to check your network. Okay, so speaking about that, let me digress a bit. So, network issue working from Nigeria in a global remote role, believe you me, that can be a very huge hassle. And you want to do the best you can. That is for those of us who are able to already secure a global remote role, especially if you're working with US clients. You want to fix your network at all costs. Right? They are very big on you being reliable when it comes to your network. Especially when there's a need for you to have meetings with external clients. They are very big on your network being flawless, right? In those kind of situations. So they would not wait until it's time for you to meet an external client. They start checking you out from how clear is your network, how clear is your communication in internal meetings, in your team check-ins, and all of that. And those are things that signal. And sometimes you just see, oh, you work for an organization for a month plus, and nothing went wrong. You just got cut off, or they just didn't continue your contract. This network issue, I mean, it's a common Nigeria thing. So it's important that you put in every possible measure to ensure that your network is top notch. And this is speaking to myself as well, because I mean, um, I'm in this Nigeria as well. I know how it works. I know how it would affect each and every one of us. So for someone like me, having worked in remote positions for a little over 4 years, I can tell you I have two routers. No, that makes three routers, two MiFis, and I still have, my mobile data connection, right? And this, yeah, that's just the reality. And sometimes they can all just even mess up at the same time, right? But it can never be all the time, right? So you should have been able to build some level of consistency in this area, such that even when it happens, certain excuses can be made for you that okay, it's not a common thing. So sorry, I digress. Back to what we were discussing. A recruiter scanning your CV in 10 to 20 seconds. Now, a recruiter is looking for career progression. A recruiter wants to see that you're maybe currently in a position that is similar to what they're looking to hire for. You're not someone that, oh, you did something similar 5 years ago and now you're in a different position that has nothing to even do with the role they're hiring for. That can be a red flag to them sometimes, right? So you want to be sure that you are well positioned. Further down the line, we'll talk about, positioning and what's the word now? You working in a niche or specializing in something. We'll talk about that as well further down the line. They also want to see what kind of tools and technology you're familiar with. Now, we'll also talk about this on the next slide. When it comes to tools and technology, I believe a lot of persons on this call are, tech people, product managers, and the likes. One common mistake we make it's not just even Nigeria. I recently reviewed an application and a candidate had an entire page of their CV and they were just filled with different tech stacks and lingos, all put in small, small boxes just to show that, oh, I know all of these tech stacks, I know all of this, I know all of that. And believe you me, for me, that was a red flag. Maybe not necessarily a red flag, but the point is, it did not signal to me that, they actually know these things. Anyone could create a list of such things. Now, where the real signal comes in is how you walk me through your knowledge of these things. How have you used these things? What problems have you used them to solve? Right? What situations, what circumstances have led you to make use of those tech stacks or those softwares or those platforms? And what were the results? That's basically what I want to see, not a full list of, oh, I know this, I know Azure, I know React, I know, no, that doesn't work, especially in a global setting, right? Maybe in a local setting where, believe you me, recruiters are always on a tight leash. You're constantly being asked to find us a candidate, close this position, this and that. Although that happens globally as well, but it's easier when there is a large pool of candidates and they can always be sure that something strong will come up. But in our local setting, usually recruiters have to be more open, take more chances on candidates, even when the CV is not saying the best, right? That's why you see oftentimes, your CV is able to get you through the door, and then maybe in the interviews you're not able to do so much, right? So these are some of the things a recruiter would typically want to first see within the 10-20 seconds, and that is when you have the time to make an impression. So your skill and competency section is not where that impression lies usually, right? It's in a mix of, you know, your profile summary, your most recent job, your career progression, being able to see clearly, oh, he worked 2 years from this to this, and then he moved on to this, and that. So those are the things that actually give the right signals, right? Now, I'm not saying the skill and competency section we usually put in our CVs are not good. No, but I'm just saying they are um they are a plus at the end, right? Not the main thing at the start. Now, um, if you remember before, I said something about risk, right? Sometimes while reviewing a CV is where a recruiter starts to check if a candidate is able to mitigate certain risks. Now, I'll digress a bit. Okay, maybe not digress. I think that's the last point on this note. Communication clarity. Communication clarity. Now, a recruiter wants to see how you communicate, how you present yourself, especially if you're applying for a position that requires you to coordinate meetings, coordinate stand-ups. I think the product managers are more familiar with these terms. Coordinate stand-ups, coordinate stakeholder engagement. It starts from how you write your CV. It starts from um, how grammatically correct your CV is, right? It starts from how you're able to put your sentences together to ensure they make sense. You're not just writing sentences to match, what has been said in a JD or whatever the case. Yes, we might have had this a lot, that tailor your CV to the job description, but it goes beyond just writing sentences that match the JD, right? You still need to be able to show yourself in that match. I'll repeat that again. While you're writing your CV to align with a JD, there is a need for your personality to show forth in that CV. There is a need for your core experiences to show forth in what you're trying to match. Now, I want us to hold that at the back of our mind. Now, moving on to our next slide, I just want to show us two case studies very quickly, and the question is, which feels easier to trust, right? There's a first candidate that their CV says manage product backlog, work with constructional teams, responsible for sprint planning. I mean, these are very core parts of a product management position, right? Now, the second candidate says reduce deployment cycle time by 28%, implemented sprint dashboard, improving predictability, shipped 4 releases used by 15,000 plus users. Now, these two candidates, funnily enough, if there's a word like that, funny enough, they possess the same experience. They are familiar with the same set of tools. They are from the same country. They have the same years of experience. But okay, before I even go to my but, I think I would like anyone to just say something about these two case studies. What do you think about case study one and case study two? If anyone would like to speak. So this is where we get interactive. Does anyone want to help us?
Okay, yes. Good evening,
Okay, thank you,
everybody.
Sandra.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Okay, from my observation for case study one, that's for candidate A, it's just like the statements are like mere statements, so there is no values to it. In contrast with the candidate B, so the candidate B actually give statements and gave evidence with values and made it more like easier to trust or easier to understand.
Mm.
So yeah, that's for me.
All right, thank you very much, Sandra. Um, Case study 2 is intentional and direct. Case study 1 is plain and generalizing. Thank you very much for that as well. Muiza, pardon me, I may not be able to call on you now for the sake of our time. Let me just run with those two observations that we've received. Thank you very much. So yeah, I think Sandra said it as closest to how I was going to present this. Candidate 2 presented value, not mere statements. Both candidates may have done the same set of work, but one person made their impact very visible. And that is where I tell you that a recruiter would not reward you for what you have not said. A recruiter cannot reward value that you have not presented, right? Now, why I'm saying this differently is because yes, you've had it a lot. What's the word now? Don't just write your responsibilities. Talk about impact, outcomes. Now, from a recruiter standpoint, why that is necessary is because I can only reward the value that I see. I can only push you for the next phase of our recruitment process when I see the value that you bring. And it starts from what I see in your resume. It starts from what I see in your resume. Now, without dwelling too much on this, candidate B is definitely a candidate that is easier to trust. This is someone that shows ownership. This is someone that shows what's the word now? Initiative. This is someone that shows results, right? This is someone that shows that hiring them would not be a mistake. This is someone that shows that they're able to optimize operations, right? And that is what a recruiter is looking for. Those are some of the risks that a recruiter is trying to mitigate. And this is someone that also communicates effectively through their resume, right? Now, moving on to our next slide. So just to buttress on some of the things I just said. Now, again, most CVs just describe tasks. Very few of them describe value. It is those strong CVs that actually describe value, and those are what recruiters are looking for. I said, yeah, in a global marketplace, recruiters are looking for the so what behind every bullet point on your resume, right? So what is the value you're bringing from based on this sentence that you're presenting to me? What value can I take out of it, right? Or why should I hire you because of this sentence? What in this sentence makes you hireable? And not just hireable now, hireable relative to many others who are coming to say the same thing you're saying, right? So it is important that while the competition is large, you are positioning yourself the right way. You are communicating your experience the right way. And I put in an impact formula here just to remind us. Some of us might already be familiar with this. For every line in your CV, for every part of your CV, be able to connect actions, contexts, and results. Be able to connect actions, context, and results. What what did you do, right? Why did you have to do it? In what context did you have to do it? What was the problem or situation that led you to doing it? And then what was the outcome of you doing it? So whenever you're rewriting your CV, revamping your CV, read each line and ask yourself this question: what is the action here? What was the context? And what is the outcome? Right? This will guide you properly in preparing your CV right. Again, I'll repeat that in another with another set of words. Again, action, what you did, context, where it mattered, why you had to do it, and then your result. What change did you bring by doing this? What was the outcome? What did you achieve? So take, for instance, rather than someone saying, I managed onboarding process, right? You want to be able to say, I led onboarding improvements that reduced customer activation time from 6 days to 2 days. Now, within that one sentence alone, you have triggered a lot of things in my mind. Not because of the use of the keywords, but how there is a connectivity in everything that is said. Now, led onboarding improvements. This is someone who can take charge. This is someone that can see the need to optimize a process. This is someone that takes the initiative to optimize that process. This is someone that is able to track the result of their work. Now, this is another thing I want many of us to take note of. You may currently be working in a local organization looking to transition. While you're doing that, please and please, it is important that you keep records your of your milestones. And by milestones, I don't mean the big wins. I mean the small wins, the weekly wins, the weekly, oh, you did great on this, you did well on this. Oh, we're glad you're on the team because you did this, we are in this better situation and all of that. I need you to be able to keep track of these things. These are some of the things that build the results that we're talking about when it comes to preparing your CV, right? So rather than just waiting for ChatGPT or Gemini to write your entire CV, bring in the actual facts, the actual details of your achievements in, whatever role you're working in currently, right? I think that's just one bonus point I wanted to give. Okay, our time is actually running fast. I'll just rush. So moving on from that, the emerging market signaling gap. Now, I particularly came up with this slide because I've seen a pattern, like many other recruiters have also seen. And it is the fact that many of us are actually very good in practical, but unfortunately, we are very, very bad on paper. Very good in practical, but very bad on paper. I know before they will say very good on paper, but very bad in practical, right? That's the one that is entirely bad. But the truth is, if you're good practically and you are bad on paper, you're just as bad, right? You're just as bad because if you're being bad on paper means you don't even get the chance. Being good on paper then bad practically means you get the chance and then you lose it, right? So there's a need for us to have a balanced profile. You're good on paper and you're good practically. Now, I think I'll take a moment to talk about these two areas. Now, I would like to charge us this evening. Some of us are looking to get remote positions. Some of us are looking to work with certain organizations. But please and please prepare yourself for those opportunities. Prepare yourself for those opportunities. When I say prepare yourself, I mean work on your communication, work on your reliability. Be someone that can be depended on. Be someone that I can give you a task, close my eyes, give you a deadline, and you complete the task. The deadline is met, no excuses, basically no excuses. Build yourself to be that kind of person that can be reliable. That is one very big thing that global organizations look out for. You may not be the best in the department, you may not be the smartest, you may not be the most strategic person. You may just be an operational person, but if you are reliable, believe you me, you have the heart of many people in the organization already. I can tell you that for a fact. So please work on that. And another thing I want us to work on is ownership. Ownership. Own every task, own every responsibility. And yes, you might not have a global role right now, but wherever it is you are, whatever it is you find yourself doing, own it. Own it. Do it like your future depends on it. Right? These are some of the unspoken rules that prepare you for global roles. And that is for a fact, that is for a given. So moving on from that, back into what I was saying. Now, this recurring observation highlights a significant gap and that is people are very good. They know their onions, but the presentation is just bad. And in this case, now we're moving beyond just the CV. We're moving into your entire personality digitally, in your CV, on LinkedIn, in your email, in I mean, for the tech guys here, your account on GitHub, all of those things. There needs to be a presence. There needs to be capacity. You must display capacity in everywhere where you need expression. Everywhere you need expression, especially your digital footprint. There must be a show of capacity as relating to the career path you are building. Now, I don't mean capacity in terms of saying you are the best in the field. No, capacity in being able to defend what you know and can do. Capacity in being able to defend what you know and can do. Now, I have a strong LinkedIn profile. I wouldn't want to, bother us with the details of all of that. We all know the importance of having a strong LinkedIn profile now. And then one other thing that is important, which is the last thing here, I said, even your email tone. Now, some of us are very great candidates, but we are very poor at writing emails. This brings us back to the part of communication. Unfortunately, your CV might be the best, but if how you send it in is not great, I may never open it. I've had applications for roles where you send in an application, there is no subject. It's just, here's my CV. I think I even saw that one very recently. Here's my CV. No subject line, nothing. Just here's my CV, and you attach the CV. While I have 500 plus applications to review, believe you me, I already dismissed that one. And I'm not trying to be unfair or anything. It's just your signal. You're giving me the wrong signal. And the signal is not just saying, oh, I'm not taking a chance of you. No, it is, I am seeing how you would write an email to the CEO when you join the organization. It's signaling me how you respond to a client when they have an inquiry. So when people come to you, or when people come online and say, oh, write your CV properly, do this, do that, they're not just saying it because they want to shade you, or because they are just auditing or pipelining applications. No, they're saying it because they know what happens on the recruiter side of things. And the truth is, it is never fair. But how can you make it fair? Is by positioning yourself right. I mean, write a proper email. And believe you me, we have we have AI to help us with some of these things. So it just takes the most smallest effort to get some things right, right? And that's just an advice I have to give to us. So because of our time, yes, we're spent for time already. So I'll just move on to one or two more things. So moving beyond the CV, moving beyond your online profile, let's just start briefly on interviews, right? Some of us are able to get through the application phase, you get an interview, and then you're one leg in, right? So at this point, we're no longer focused on what's the word now? We're no longer focused on can you do the job. Believe you me, 90, okay, let me not say 90 because I don't have facts, but 80% of the time, getting an interview for a global role means that your resume or your CV already gave a strong signal, right? So coming into an interview means solidifying that signal, sealing it. So we're no longer asking the question of, can this person do it? Your CV already tells us that. But in a way, part of what we're looking out for is, are you the same person that you presented on paper? If you're not, then it's better you start preparing yourself to be. Now, are you someone that can clearly share your opinions, clearly share your thoughts? Are you someone that, takes ownership? I mentioned this before when I was talking, takes ownership. Now, where ownership shows up in an interview most times, like an interview I had recently with a candidate, I needed to know what this candidate has done, what exact capacity they function in. And throughout the conversation, all these candidates kept saying was we use, we did, we. And unfortunately for him, I didn't have the time to, calm him down and, break it down and say, you know what, you're not answering my question. Walk me through what you do in this organization. I didn't have that time. I had 7 other interviews lined up for the day. Now, sometimes that may be nice to tell you, okay, you know what, I need to know specifically where your impacts lie. But not every interviewer would have the time to tell you that you just lost an opportunity by your inability to show ownership. Now, someone else will come and say, using we means that, you can be a team player, you can be collaborative. But trust me, there are better ways to show that you are collaborative or you are a team player when speaking in an interview than using the we throwing around the we word. You don't want to do that to yourself in an interview, especially for global roles that are big on ownership. When no one else is there, can you get it done? When no one else is there, can you do this? Can we, if you are the only person in this department to handle this role, if everyone else resigned, are you still functional without a we? These are some of the things, the signals we are looking out for when we're conducting these interviews. Another piece which would always be constant is your communication confidence. And then lastly, your ability to collaborate remotely. I've mentioned a lot of things, fixing your internet, being reliable, not always having excuses as to why deliverables are delayed and things like that. So you want to ensure that you have all of those things put together properly. Um, Okay, so the grid framework, a 4-part strategy to shift your hiring probability. So their acronyms, GRID. The first one says clarity in your presentation that resonates with international standards. That's a global signal. The second one says results quantified. Now this has to do with how you present yourself online on your CV. Every major achievement backed by a number, metric, or tangible change. We've talked about results. Independent proof. Now, we've said this very recently as well, demonstrating that you can thrive without a manager over your shoulder. And the last one, digital presence, alignment between your CV, your LinkedIn, your professional footprint. Now, talking about your footprint, as relating to your emails as well, please and please, if you need to have a separate email for professional things, please do. Right? Some of you, the reason why your applications go into the spam folder is because of the type of things that you've used your email for in the past, not any other reason. The kind of digital footprint that email already has flags it to certain recruitment emails as, this should not be here. Now that's just an extra pointer for someone. So moving on to my bonus point, and this is where we wrap up. I'll just be sharing 4 bonus points with us, and that will be all. Favor, am I still within scope and within time? I know we had 1 hour for this session.
Yes, I think we can wrap up within 5 minutes.
Okay, great. I'll do that. All right. So first bonus point I'll be sharing is as relating to your CV. Now, these are some things you want to ensure you do not do or you do better with. Relating to your CV and your digital profile, right? First is do not list responsibilities, list outcomes, share outcomes. The second one is having very long CVs is not necessary. While you continue in your career, as you progress in your career, based on the expansion in your roles and the more roles you take on, yes, your CV starts to get longer, right? But even at that, there are ways you can package your profile that it presents who you are at the moment, not who you used to be. It can better present who you are and how you got there, right? I wouldn't be able to go much into that, but the point here is having very long CVs can be a headache for recruiters, right? I want to be able to read the first 1-2 pages of your CV and be able to conclude that, yes, this looks like a solid candidate. If I'm having to read 4 or 5 pages, then we already have a problem. I may not even have the strength, the mental strength to do that, right? But I mean, it's our job, we have to do it, right? But then it's just better if you position yourself better. Another bonus point is understanding the global salary reality, right? Most organizations that hire globally, they hire because they're able to adjust salaries based on location. They're able to adjust their pay bands, get more work done, and being able to, some of them just don't want to pay the equivalent of, you know, the current economy where they are, right? And many people don't discuss this openly, right? But it's important that we do. Now, if you're just starting out your career, looking out for global remote roles, yes, there's favor in the market. We call it favor market. But please and please be sure to present yourself, even from a salary standpoint, present yourself correctly. Don't overshoot. Start from somewhere. Start from somewhere and build. Now, I'm saying this from a very good level of experience. Start from somewhere and build. Build capacity, build reliability, build trust, build recommendations, right? And speaking about recommendations, another fact I want us to know is a lot of the jobs that many of you would get may not even come from your applications. It comes from your network, it comes from the reputation you build, it comes from referrals, right? And I can tell you two of the 3, 4 jobs I've worked on in the last few years have come from recommendation, not even from applications. So I'm telling you, it is very possible, right? So do not just rely on applying. And another bonus point is for those of us that are actively applying, while you're targeting companies for global roles, you could also try targeting recruitment and consulting firms, right? There are people in the US, in the UK, in the Canada that present themselves as recruitment agencies, consulting firms, and all of that. Sometimes it's fine for you to just shoot them your profile and say, oh, I'm actually great at this. I'm looking, to get an opportunity in this, and this. I mean, it's not a guarantee, but it's a very good shot. Some of these organizations are actively looking for the right talent, and if you are a right talent, they just might, link you up to a great job. So that's an information you did not pay for. So in closing, one thing I will just close with is, okay, that's a question. I'll take that. So just to close this presentation, I would say again, stop applying other, start positioning yourself smarter, right? Stop applying other, start positioning yourself smarter. Um, Global remote work is not about leaving your country. It's not about just earning more. If that is the idea many of us have, and we're Nigerians, it's okay. But the truth is, global remote work should be about expanding your professional market, right? You're becoming a professional juggernaut. Stop applying, yeah, thank you. Stop applying others, start positioning yourself smarter. Look for jobs in the places people don't search. That's part of the ways you position yourself smarter. There is a US client that I recently had to work with, and the platform on which they contacted me is just an upcoming AI platform. Some of us might be familiar with it, some of us might have never heard. I'll just type it in the chat. It's an upcoming platform that you really see a lot of people on. I just typed it in the chat. And I was even surprised when they connected with me because I've been on that platform for over a year. And I was even like, are these people even functional? Right? And a client contacted me through there, and we worked on a project together. So again, position yourself smarter. Ask the questions that others are not asking. Present yourself in ways that others are not presenting themselves. And yeah, I think that's about as much as I can share this evening. Our time is far spent. And I guess for questions, if there are parts of global hiring process that are confusing or frustrating, you could ask. And if favor permits, I would also take the chance to talk about them. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope this session has been functional, relevant for our career growth. Thank you very much for having me. Over to you, Favor.
All right, thank you so much, Emmanuel. This was an amazing session. I can really say it. All right, this is the time for questions. If you can unmute your mic, you can raise up your hand and I will tell you to speak. But if not, you can send your question in the chat box. Okay, now we have one question from Raphael Oluchi. She says, please, can you elaborate on how to present salary expectations without undershooting too much? Man, please, you can go ahead to answer the question.
All right, thank you very much for that question. Without undershooting, okay. So first of all, for every position that you apply to, right, there are certain signals you want to look out for. And one of them, which many of us
Yes.
overlook,
Yes.
is when an organization says hiring remote USA. When you see
Yes.
things like that, SA, okay, thank you for muting your mic. When you see things like that, yes, we want to still take the chance and hope that someone somewhere would, make that decision to just hire me and sponsor my visa or whatever. But be sure that you are applying to positions that accept global applications, right? That's one thing. And when you're doing that, you most likely would find that, excuse me, please, based on what level you are in your career, right? There is a typical going rate for global candidates. There is a typical going rate for global candidates for the level that you're in. Now, this is where you need to be very honest with yourself. Now, there are positions where the organizations are able to pay the exact equivalent of if they were hiring locally. Now, those are very different situations. But away from that, there is a benchmark, right, for global candidates that are being recruited for certain positions. Do not overshoot that benchmark. Now, this is especially speaking to people that are, junior positions. But I mean, for a senior level person, please, by all means, shoot for the equivalent. Shoot for the local equivalent. I give you the full permission, right? And I'm saying that because you do not want to undervalue your experience. You do not want to undervalue what you bring to the table, right? I hope that answers your question to an extent. Be honest with yourself. Know where you're at in your career, and do your research on what the global market equivalent is for anyone hiring for that kind of position, and position yourself somewhere there, right? So that's one. Favor, can I go on with the next question? I think someone asked another question.
Yes, please.
Okay. Please, can you talk about cold mailing and messaging CEOs based on your experience? Is it still worth it to keep doing so? And also, what's your advice on this? Okay. Cold mailing CEOs. Now, speaking like a CEO, 60% of the time now is, permit me to use the word, annoying. Now, maybe a CEO that then has a recruitment team, they can be very nice to forward your email to the recruitment team and be like, oh, our recruitment team will get in touch with you and all of that. But many CEOs don't have the time to, take a look at job applications. They leave it to their recruitment team, right? So maybe the CEOs are not the best persons for you to be cold emailing. Maybe the recruitment, maybe the head of the recruitment team, someone high up there when it comes to recruitment or talent acquisition in the organization would be a better person to cold email. If you're cold emailing a CEO, it's better if you're coming to him with a business proposal. Now your cold email makes sense to a CEO, right? So focus on the recruiting team, the recruitment director, the head of recruitment, head of HR, and all of those are the people that you should focus more on if you intend getting better results. I hope that helps. Moving on to the next question. I would like to know how to apply for positions when you don't have prior experience. What can I do to capture a recruiter's attention? Okay. This can be very dicey, And some of the questions I would ask is, if you're applying for a position where you don't have prior experience, then that means you're either volunteering or applying for an internship. Now, there is no need to jump the gun. There is no need to run faster than your shadow. If you do not have the experience in something, it's important that you build that experience. And believe you me, applying for internship positions is actually quite easier, right? But the challenge with that is there are still 1,001 people for you to compete with. So sometimes with uh, situations where you do not have prior experience, where you're just trying to gain the experience, sometimes the problem is not you, right? Sometimes it's not that you're not capturing the recruiter's attention. It's just the fact that there are 1,001 other people doing the same. And they then have to look at other factors beyond just what you are saying. Maybe factors like, okay, who is closer in terms of time zone difference, who is in terms of processing the employment, or dealing with employment laws in their own countries, which one is easier to work with. So there are a lot of factors that go into recruiters' decision sometimes. Earlier when I spoke about some risk, there are a lot of things that go into it beyond just how you present your CV. Now, but one important thing I will still come back to, because we said a lot about positioning, right? Ensure that your CV is top notch. And how do you do this? If you do not have prior experience and you're applying for a role, maybe for an internship position, ensure that you're able to identify transferable skills. Transferable skills. I do not mean to shade anyone, but I was recently speaking with someone and they needed to apply for a very professional position, but they didn't have the the skills for it. And then I had to ask them, okay, what skill do you have that you can leverage on, or that you can, present as transferable skill or anything? They didn't have it. What they had was more of a vocational skill, right? And in that kind of situation, it's very difficult to. I mean, you're competing with people applying from interns. Take for instance, you're competing with a computer engineering graduate for a software engineering internship position, and you do not have any experience. They have some academic background. They already have an edge over you. So, in terms of positioning for your career, you want to develop yourself, take trainings, take courses, learn things, right? All of these things put together are what you can use to build your CV, build your resume, build your profile. I learned this, I know how to do this, I know how this works. I just need to, practice in a work environment. So those are the kind of way you present yourself better. I hope I've been able to touch on that question. I don't want to dwell too much on it because of our time. The next question here says, do Nigerians have to go through recruitment agencies in regards to payment issues with US companies? It depends. It depends. I've had US companies that, um, they have difficulties sorting out payments for their global talents. So some of them, you see, they will typically tell you, let's manage this engagement on Upwork, right? It's easier for them to run payments and stuff on that kind of platform. There are other organizations that, I mean, there are payment platforms now that even make it easy for you to receive, your salaries and stuff like that from US employers directly, right? We have Raynest, formerly GeekPay. There's Payoneer, many of them like that. Lemfi, thank you very much. So I think for me, Raynest is like still up there right now, right? And these are platforms where some organizations are able to make use of, and they send you your payment without stress. You don't need a recruitment agency. So maybe in certain cases where they are much larger sized organizations, where they have, a high number of global or international employees, then there might be the necessity of them, partnering with a recruitment agency to ensure that, they are fulfilling every needs as regards to the employment laws of the home countries of. So basically, it's just dependent on the kind of US company you are engaging with. I think that answers the question. Thank you very much. Favor, I guess I can hand over back to you now.
Yes, thank you so much, Emmanuel. Um, Oluwafemi says, how can he reach out to you?
Okay. Hmm. I think LinkedIn is fine. LinkedIn is fine. But for now, my LinkedIn request is kind of getting very crowded. Not like to boast, right? But I'm just saying you might send a request there and it gets lost in a pile. So I can give you my email address.
Okay. You can. I think I dropped that in the chat session.
I can drop my email address. I think that's
Yes.
one of the best places you can get me.
Okay. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. Please let's send in our favorite images to appreciate Emmanuel for this wonderful session. Thank you once again, everybody, for joining tonight's session. And I'm sure it was indeed an eye-opening one. For those that joined in late, this session is for. Okay. Olatunji says, how do people deal with imposter syndrome? I'll quickly take that, Emmanuel.
Okay. That's a very interesting question because even I deal with imposter syndrome. I still dealt with it last week. Okay, that's just on a lighter note. The truth is you would almost always feel imposter syndrome. You would almost always feel it. But um sometimes you just need to look back on your results, right? Look at how far you've come, right? And tell yourself, these things didn't happen by chance. This things didn't happen by luck. I worked. I worked. Those are some of the motivational speeches you have to then give yourself when you're getting that sense of imposter syndrome, right? You look back on your result, and I said something before that for your even in your week, take record of milestones, take records of achievements. When imposter syndrome comes, those are the things that you will feed yourself to get over it. Because the truth is, imposter syndrome is never real, or maybe almost never real. So those are things you can look back on to fly over imposter syndrome when it comes most times. Thank you. I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you so much, Emmanuel. All right, so for those that are joining late, this session is brought to you by InnovaLab Institute, a leading tech institute in Africa that trains people to become experts and experienced product managers. So if you're interested in learning product management, I think InnovaLab is the best place for you to come learn. You can share the word with people and all of that. So yeah, I'm sure I hope the session has given you the confidence to be able to apply to global roles. And just like Emmanuel said, apply strategically. It is not just about applying, but doing the work. Don't just send in your CVs like that. Do the work before sending your CV. Ensure you make a great impression. All right, so this is where we call it a night. Thank you so much once again for joining tonight's session. And we hope to see you at our next session. All right, do enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye, everybody.